Hello and welcome into another So You'd Like to Get Into Gaming. Today's episode, I'm going to be combining two genres into one. You'll have already seen it's first-person shooters and third-person shooters, mainly because there aren't a lot of true, actual first-person shooters and third-person shooters available on the Nintendo Switch 2, which the whole point of the videos that I am making go under the recommendation of why I feel you should get a Switch 2, why if you are only just getting into gaming or maybe getting back into gaming, I truly do feel it is the best beginner's console that you can actually get, and the tech inside of it is pretty impressive, to be honest. The ports that we're getting, for the most part, I'd say, are actually surprisingly decent. Things like Resident Evil 7, 8 and 9 are absolutely magnificent ports, and I was not expecting that going in. So first up, I'm going to address the gigantic Metroid in the room. I am fully aware, before anyone gets angry, Metroid Prime is not a first-person shooter. Now, I understand if you genuinely know nothing about this genre and you want to get into it, you may be sitting here thinking, well, it looks like a first-person shooter. Yeah, it's a game that is set in the first person, and you do have shooting mechanics, but it is truly not a first-person shooter. This is more of an action-adventure Metroidvania, hence the title Metroid and everything. But I am using footage of this purely because I do own a few FPSs on the Switch, but everything I own is something that I actually also own on the PC, and I would much rather run it and play it on the PC, and it got to the point where, because the Switch 2 and everything uses its own memory cards, I've never got around to reinstalling some of the games that I'm about to mention, because they are absolutely huge and I don't need them on portable, to be honest. However, as I'm recording this, the Switch has literally just had an update allowing you to play handheld but boost mode for Switch 1 games, so it basically will allow you to play the games docked, and not gonna lie, I'm kinda interested in replaying Metro. So I'm going to start there. Metro 2033 and Last Light are available on Switch 1. They don't have Switch 2 updates, but they are genuinely exceptionally good ports. Locked to 30 FPS if memory serves, but they are surprisingly good ports. It's one of those that, if it's the only way you can play the games, they're a great way to play it. Now, Metro, as much as I would like to recommend it for everyone, it is still a survival horror game. It's definitely more of a first-person shooter than Metroid is here, but it is also very much horror and some survival horror elements to it. But Metro is definitely a good place to start. You can get the Crysis trilogy and the Bioshock trilogy, and Bioshock is another one of those. It's a little bit of horror and it's not so much full first-person shooter, but still, for the purposes of this video, I would definitely say it's first-person shooter enough, and while I am not the biggest fan of Bioshock personally, I always found it a little overhyped. Like, it's not a bad game or anything, I just genuinely found it overhyped when it came out. The ports on the Switch are exceptional, as are the ports for the Crysis trilogy, and I think I'm already starting to run out of genuine recommendations for first-person shooters. Obviously, there are other games. You can play the old GoldenEye game, you can play the old Perfect Dark game on part of the Nintendo Switch Online. There's other games like that, but without an N64 controller, I don't think they hold up well. With an N64 controller, I think they do hold up well, and they are still really good games, but maybe not something you want to be as your first-person shooter experience. Competitively, you can get Apex Legends, which is a free game, but it's one of those that's like loaded with microtransactions. As far as I am aware, they released a Switch 2 version of it a couple of months ago, and it's still being supported, so that would be the place to go for competitive-wise. On to third-person shooters. There's a lot of games that aren't technically third-person shooters, but kinda fit this bill. So you can play a lot of the more actiony Resident Evil games like 4, 5, and 6. However, don't ever play 5 and 6, and to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of 4 until the VR version and the remake came out, which so far the remake is not available on the Switch 2. Hopefully it will be, because I will definitely buy it to have it handheld. You can therefore play Resident Evil 8 and 9. They have third-person modes, they also have first-person modes, but again, they're more survival horror, not really shooter, but I still wanted to bring them up, because especially 9 has a lot of high-action moments, so it still might be a good starting point for third-person shooter if you also want to get into survival horror. But outside of that, we're starting to already run slim pickings, because third-person shooters really are not a lot at all on the Switch 2. And I am going to circle back to some more notable first-person shooters as well, going to the more classic vein. But I'm going to mention Fortnite, if you want competitive. It's one of the biggest games in the world. I assume you know Fortnite. It's another one that's free, quote unquote, but it's like full of microtransactions and stuff. But it still is available, and I'm pretty sure there is a Switch 2 version of it. And then you've got some of the more popular Nintendo offerings of Splatoon 2 and 3, which do have single-player campaigns, quote-unquote, kinda. It's, like, not really great single-player campaigns, and some of them you have to pay DLC for to get a lot of the single-player content. And if you plan to play those online and you don't have a squad, if it really is just you, you're going to get absolutely annihilated. That's always been one of the biggest problems with Splatoon. You really do need a squad of people to play. But they're still good places to start. And I truly am struggling now for any actual genuine third-person shooters out there. I know you can play the first Alan Wake game, but again, I wouldn't really call that a third-person shooter. And I think I've already mixed up that term at least once. But maybe there's some that I am just oblivious to. I actually, before starting this video, went into the eShop and just looked up shooters and really couldn't find anything, which, to be honest, I might do now while I'm kind of ending the video, because to circle back on some of the other first-person shooter offerings, you can play some true classics, and you can play the Quake games, Quake 1 and 2, brilliant ports, to be honest, and they did, I'm trying to actually find, I think it's under search, there we go. You can play Quake 1 and 2, which are brilliant ports of two very old-school classic first-person shooters. You can get a lot of the old Doom games, to be fair, so Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 3, and its expansion, which Doom 3 is definitely a lot more horror vibes than just action vibes, but it's still really good. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are both available, and they're considered wonder ports. They're definitely not the best way to play the game, but they're still considered wonder ports. Tomb Raider, you might consider that a third-person shooter. It's an action-adventure, but it does have a lot of shooting mechanics in it, so that might be a good one to go for. Cyberpunk and Fallout 4 are available, as are like the likes of Skyrim, but I wouldn't really call those first-person shooters. It's more games that, like Metroid, are in the first-person vein. Red Dead Redemption, again, I don't really think I'd call it a third-person shooter, but it is still there. This is not the console, basically, for TPS and FPS. You can get Resident Evil Revelations as well, that's kind of a third-person shooter, but yeah, it's not the console for a lot of... Oh, I genuinely didn't even realise that Wolfenstein 2 was available. It's also a first-person shooter. I don't know if any of the others are available. Bolt Gun, another FPS. I know this is a weird video to essentially do this and to go through, but we are learning with each other here, because System Shock, another FPS, Bulletstorm, it's really not good, but it turns out there's actually more games here than I thought. Basically, the limitations, though, are that you can't get some of the true greats of these genres. So at the moment, you can't get the likes of Gears of War, which I think is one of the best third-person shooters available. You can't get Half-Life or Half-Life 2, which is some of the best first-person shooters available. You can't get Left 4 Dead, another great one. I absolutely cannot stand Call of Duty, personally, but it is popular, so you can't get that at this moment in time. Basically, if you want to get some of the more popular, bigger named first-person and third-person shooters, this is not the console for you. But if you're just looking to dabble and get into the genre, there's actually some decent offerings, it turns out. And with that, I think this video is kind of done. So yeah, hopefully anything I've said here will actually be useful to people. And to be fair, by the time this goes up, maybe there'll be some more games in that genre, like maybe there'll be some more games announced, because I know they're currently remaking Halo 1 for about the 5th time. It's still not as bad as The Last of Us, but still, they're remaking that, and now that Microsoft put everything on everything, Halo 1 might genuinely come to the Switch too, and it's a very popular game. It's not a game I personally like, but it is a very popular game, so you might be able to get that, but at the moment, that's obviously speculation. Tiny thing to end the video. Considering I'm a massive Borderlands fan, I'd already recorded the FPS video like so many times, and as soon as I stopped recording, I realised, on top of forgetting to mention Turok, which you can get Turok 1 and 2 on the Nintendo 64 app, and you can get 1, 2, and 3 as remakes, which the remakes are a lot better. They really are a lot better. If you're going to play Turok, play the remakes. I know it costs money, but still play the remakes. They did a lot of modernization to really make those games a lot more playable. But I also forgot to mention Borderlands as an FPS. Now, technically Borderlands is more RPG, but at the same time it is definitely still considered an FPS. It's got a lot of first-person shooter combat, and the Borderlands games are really good. 3's not the best on the Switch, but on the Switch 2 it does at least run with a really good frame rate, unlike the Switch 1 version, but it's definitely a watered-down version, very watered-down graphically, but it still is fun enough to play, to be honest. It still is okay. Borderlands 1 and 2 really do hold up. Pre-sequel, great story, not the best gameplay. So yeah, add that on to the end. Annoyingly, this is now editing work, but yeah, I think I'm kind of out of things to say. So until next time, I'm going to say I've been Sky Fellowship. I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day and that this video has been at all remotely useful. And until next time, bye.